Hello everyone and welcome back to another instalment from our series Straight from the Horse's Mouth. The Australian Steel Institute is transitioning its current Environmental Sustainability Charter program to the Steel Sustainability Australia program. The SSA certification program aims to support participants in meeting construction industry expectations for sustainably sourced steel. The program ensures that steel is responsibly sourced, fabricated and processed by best practice sustainable operators. Here's a sneak preview.
It's the little guys, the small to medium enterprises. What we need is for these little guys to be able to tackle the big problems of sustainability. But how does a small company develop systems and certifications and EPDs, the things that we're asking for them to respond to be able to verify a more sustainable built environment? SSA is a launch pad. Not like a rocket launch pad where the rocket needs to get itself off the ground using enormous amounts of energy, but it's like a trampoline where members can jump on it and it gives them direction and momentum and it propels them towards a more sustainable model of doing business.
Only 31% of claims, environmental claims in Australian markets have supporting evidence or verification to provide confidence that the claim is accurate or meaningful, and it's really, really important there that we have schemes and associations to help with that verification.
ThinkStep, our consultants were obviously integral in this project. They, developed the program from scratch and worked really hard on that. And then we had about, I would say, a year, a little bit over of consultation. So it was a really heavy consultation process, both within the steel industry and outside of the steel industry, which I think was really crucial to this program. And so this is just a snapshot of what it actually is. So what is it? It's a new certification program that engages the entire steel supply chain to comply with best practice, sustainable operations in steel manufacturing, processing, and fabrication.
The program was developed to align with the Green Star Buildings Rating Tool and Responsible Products Framework developed by the Green Building Council of Australia. SSA certified steel products can assist projects seeking Green Star certification. This webinar explains the new program, how it was developed, and how it can help the steel industry respond to current and future sustainability challenges in the built environment. With that, let's get started.
Hello and a very warm welcome back to our webinar series, Straight from the Horse's Mouth, Insights from Experts in 30 Minutes. My name's Nicole Sullivan, Head of Strategy and Impact Australia at thinkstep-anz. I'm your host for the next half an hour. It's great to have such a big audience today, and some of you might not know us. So just a couple of words about us. We're passionate about enabling organisations to succeed sustainably, and we help with detailed studies like life cycle assessment, carbon footprinting, green financing, and strategic sustainability projects. We've been doing this for over 15 years in Australia and New Zealand. Our guests today are Jerusha Beresford, Sustainability Manager at the Australian Steel Institute. Jerusha has 15 years' experience in project and operations management across commercial property and research industries, leading a mix of sustainability and environmental health and safety related initiatives. Jerusha is particularly passionate about utilising her skills in communication, strategic planning and delivery to drive positive outcomes for a more sustainable future. Katherine Featherstone is Senior Manager, Responsible Products and Materials at the GBCA. Katherine has worked in the construction industry for over 20 years and has a background in industrial and retail design. At the GBCA, she's part of the effort to transform the way products and materials are procured and specified. She works with many stakeholders, including architects, manufacturers, and materials experts, and is inspired by the incredible change already happening throughout the supply chain. Katherine is currently finalising the GBCA's practical guide to upfront carbon, as well as developing the Responsible Products Framework that we'll hear about today. She sits on the Property Council's Circular Economy Working Group and that of the City of Sydney's Better Buildings Partnership. I want to talk about one of the elephants in the room for sustainability. There is actually a gap between our ambitions and reality, and that's really the elephant in the room. Now, one of these elephants, it's the voices that we don't hear when we're having the conversations about sustainability in the built environment. It's the little guys, the small to medium enterprises. What we need is for these little guys to be able to tackle the big problems of sustainability. But how does a small company develop systems and certifications and EPDs, the things that we're asking for them to respond to be able to verify a more sustainable built environment? Because the problem is they're resource poor. They don't have a lot of people, they don't have a lot of time, they don't have a lot of money. And often we want startups to come in with new solutions, but startups quite often start as these little guys and we need to give them a way in. So there needs to be a solution. What will that solution achieve? That solution will understand the needs of industry and particularly these smaller players. It will give access to a pool of relevant resources. It'll provide targeted tools to meet the identified needs of industry. It will influence industries to move forward together, and it'll leverage the effort for the greatest impact. So what is that solution? Well, I'm going to put to you today that solution is industry associations. Industry associations are insightful. They understand what their members need, what they don't, and what works. They're enablers. Often their members are small to medium enterprises who would not be able to take on this work on their own, but they can do it together. Industry associations are pragmatic. They can provide bespoke tools for their industry to help them to improve in a way that suits them. They're influencers. They can drive their industry forward holistically as part of an industry strategy. And finally, they're multipliers. The effort that is invested applies to many businesses, and the impact benefits are multiplied from the work that an association can do. So the question is, how does an association do that? Well, start here. Start with this webinar, and particularly start with what the ASI has done with Steel Sustainability Australia, because they're responding to both market trends and the needs of their members and meeting that place in the middle. SSA is a launch pad, not like a rocket launch pad where the rocket needs to get itself off the ground using enormous amounts of energy, but it's like a trampoline where members can jump on it, and it gives them direction and momentum, and it propels them towards a more sustainable model of doing business. So now we'd like to have a look at the market trends and particularly what the GBCA has been doing with their responsible products framework that helped set the direction for the SSA. So I'm going to hand over at this point to Katherine. Thanks for joining us, Kat.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to talk to you today, first of all, about what we do, but also the work that SSA is doing and how we collaborated as well with them to move forward with responsible products. So I will just introduce ourselves again. I'm sure many of you know who we are and what we do, but just to frame it up so that you have the context, we're the largest national voluntary and holistic rating system, and we rate buildings, anything from hospitals to airports and anything in between. We've started rating homes recently as well, and we rate communities or precincts as well as the performance of buildings. We advocate for policies and programs to support our vision and purpose, and we provide education for industry and government and decision makers, and promote green building programs, technologies, design practices, and operations. We also collaborate with our 600 plus member organisations within industry to drive change and set world-leading standards for the built environment. And that's exactly what has happened with the Sustainable Steel Australia. So this is how it works for us and what we're doing. GBCA is currently prioritising materials. We know how we choose materials is more important now than ever before. We've developed the responsible product framework to help define the requirements for products to be accepted in our Green Star tools, and we're also developing products calculators and lists of compliant products to be managed by the GBCA. This will initially only be available to Green Star projects, but we really are hoping that that will be externally available and available to consumers and to the end consumer eventually. So these stats here really back up what Nicole was saying and why it's just so important to industry and to consumers. Only 31% of claims environmental claims in Australian markets have supporting evidence or verification to provide confidence that the claim is accurate or meaningful. And it's really, really important there that we have schemes and associations to help with that verification. And 47% of Australians would stop buying from a business if they knew that that business practiced greenwashing. So how does that work, and how are we reliant on associations? We require these schemes to verify the claims of each of the manufacturers. So if someone says that they have an EPD, if someone says they have ISO 14001, or if they have checked for modern slavery, for example, the GBCA is relying heavily only on those schemes to check those claims. We will then assign the scheme with a responsible product value, and that is then transferred down onto the product, the manufacturer, and then the product level. And then that RPV is taken into Green Star and used within Green Star projects. Schemes can be used not just standalone, but you can have more than one, up to 10, as many as you want. And that really helps round out the specialities that each scheme has, whereas one might focus on circularity, another might focus more on responsibility and claims of, carbon neutrality, for example. So what the responsible product framework is, and what it does is it sets out the guidelines for industry around what a good building product is and helps signal to product manufacturers what those requirements are, and then rewards those who achieve the criteria within the framework. And it will also help decision makers, be they specifiers or project teams or procurement teams. And we're also hoping to influence down the line larger procurers like the government and all government levels, as well as large corporations, to help cut through that greenwash and help cut through the level of claims that are out there by becoming a trusted definition of what a good building product is. So the framework breaks down those products into 4 key categories: responsible, healthy, positive, and circular. And there's a section for leadership, which addresses emerging technologies, and in the future we'll pull them into those future versions of the framework and the tools. So where we start to see these emerging trends, we start to pull them into the mainstream as we go forward. And that's what Green Star has done for a very long time, and it's certainly what we're aiming to do here. So the work that we did and the work that happened alongside SSA, so Steel Sustainability Australia and the Institute, Australian Steel Institute that guides the program, the ASI sustainability program assessed themselves and came to us as we initially released the Green Star Buildings tool. And when we all started discussing what it was currently looking at and how it worked, there was a recognition that there were areas of ambition that ASI had for their program, and together, but mainly with, it was with guidance, but ASI pushed to improve the sustainability of their products and update its program and really align with the responsible product framework. It's a really well-performing program. It is rated and recognised. It's one of the early members or early schemes within our framework that is recognised, and it's fully aligned, as I said. The staged approach, I think, is really worth noting as well, because it rewards members. So that works from both the program, ASI sustainability program, and the SSA. So all of in our industry, as you know, there's a lot of acronyms and I always get them confused. Both the Responsible Products Framework and the SSA enable all levels of industry to get involved. So whether you're starting on your journey, you're rewarded for where you are, and you can move through the different levels of the program. and be rewarded along the way as you move the way through. And it's certainly been an absolute pleasure to help and be on that journey with them. But to tell you more about the program, I will hand you over to the lovely Jerusha Beresford, who developed the program for SSA.
What a lovely introduction. Thanks so much. A little bit about who we are at the ASI, in case you don't know. So we're the nation's peak body representing the entire steel supply chain. As Nicole put it, from the little guys or the SMEs right up until to the big guys. And our purpose is really to represent, promote, educate and support the Australian steel industry. We have about 6,000 members across 16 organisations and we keep growing. So I'd just like to contextualise the climate we're in at the moment when I talk about SSA. As we all know, there's this increasing focus on emission reduction and low carbon and more sustainable building products. As Kat's point out, it's a real focus for the Green Building Council of Australia, as well as other authorities in the built environment like MECLA and Neighbours. But even at a government level, it's, as we all know, it's a real, over the last 18 months to 24 months, we've seen a real push for more focus in this area. Especially on steel and concrete as the biggest emitters of manufacturing building products. And so a great way to really identify sustainable steel products is through these industry-specific accreditation programs. And the reason for that is that they know their industry, and also it's not looking just at decarbonisation and any narrow focuses. They really do focus on all of that ESG impact of building products. And so this just shows a quick snapshot of what sustainability accreditation programs are out there for steel at the moment. And there's been a lot of activity in this space over the last 18 months, as you would know. So Responsible Steel has come out with a great, really in-depth standard across ESG impact for the steel manufacturing end at the mill end. Science-based targets are currently consulting and working on a target setting tool specifically for the steel industry. And there's also pre-existing programs out there like GECA, Green Tag, and of course the World Steel programs. But these programs are really aimed at the big guys at the manufacturing end, and for good reason. But what ASI saw as a gap in that, and that we've actually been running the environmental sustainability charter for those downstream companies in the steel supply chain, so for the fabricators. And so we saw it important to fill that gap. And so we've been running the ESC for over 10 years now. We really kind of saw the need, because of all what's going on in this climate, to look at the ESC and see if it was still serving our customers. And the answer was it's not really. It was a great scheme. We had exponential growth of fabricators applying to it, and they actually achieved considerable reduction in their CO2 footprints through this program, which we're very proud of, and I'm sure they are too. But yeah, we really needed to adapt our certification program to keep the supply chain relevant and to give customers what they are after. And so that's how Steel Sustainability Australia was born. We really identified this requirement for a steel-specific accreditation program that assesses the ESG impact of steel products across the entire value chain. And so these are the main objectives that we set out to do. So we wanted to supersede the ESC with an up-to-date best practice standard for steel manufacturing, processing and fabrication. We wanted to meet current and future expectations of ESG performance, including that demand for the more low carbon or sustainable construction materials. We want to provide specifiers with a means to identify sustainable steel suppliers. And we also wanted to support the steel industry with a program that raises their credentials and promotes what they're doing in this space. And so we set out on the mammoth task of developing this program. And so ThinkStep, our consultants were obviously integral in this project. They, developed the program from scratch and worked really hard on that. And then we had about, I would say, a year, a little bit over of consultation. So it was a really heavy consultation process, both within the steel industry and outside of the steel industry, which I think was really crucial to this program. And then we came up, finished with this great program that ThinkStep developed for us, as well as the supporting tools, which are very important as well. And I'll explain those in a second. And so where are we at now? We have launched the program in January this year, and we are now conducting marketing activities like this one. But really, it's important to note that we are open to continual consultation with all of our stakeholders on the SSA program and what it does. And so this is just a snapshot of what it actually is. So what is it? It's a new certification program that engages the entire steel supply chain to comply with best practice, sustainable operations in steel manufacturing, processing and fabrication. So what it's doing is it's still certifying the downstream, the little guys, in the supply chain. But we're opening it up to not just fabricators, like roll formers, reinforcing processors, and even distributors can get certified to this to show what they're doing in the sustainable space. But we're also verifying where the steel supply is coming from and verifying those steel manufacturers and ensuring that the steel coming into the program are from companies that are doing their absolute best to be sustainable. And so this is just a little snapshot on what we're actually assessing in the program. So it is based on the Green Building Council's Responsible Products Framework and those underpinning principles that Kat highlighted before. Obviously the Green Building Council are a leading authority on what a sustainable building is, and so we really wanted to work with them and create a program that was seen as had integrity, but also could gain points under the Green Star system. And so there's 3 levels of certification available, which, as you can see, assess ESG indicators, and there are varying requirements depending on which level you go for. So level 1 being the most basic for those companies who are really starting out on their sustainability journey. We want to reward them as well, all the way up to level 3 for those companies who are really doing the best practice, those leaders in the industry, and that's what level 3 is for. So as I said, we developed the program under the principles of the Responsible Products Framework, and now we are very proud to say that the program is recognised under the Green Star Responsible Products Framework, allowing certain levels of the program to contribute to those responsible product values that Kat was talking about. So level 2 SSA certification achieves good practice product recognition under the RPF, and level 3 certification to SSA achieves that best practice product under their framework. So just in summary, this is what we see as being achieved by the Steel Sustainability Australia program. So we're engaging the entire supply chain by certifying downstream businesses and verifying the upstream steel producers against best practice ESG indicators. By getting that through chain transparency of ESG impacts is really important. And as Nicole was saying, it is harder for the smaller businesses to prove that they are doing stuff like this and to build up those credentials. So as part of the program, we really have worked hard to create practical tools as part of this certification program to help them. It assures our customers that certified steel suppliers and their products are sustainably manufactured and processed and are sourced through responsible and ethical supply chains. It promotes steel as a sustainable material choice, supporting trends such as embodied carbon reduction and circularity, and it's a recognised initiative under the Responsible Products Framework, which I said. And so here's the last slide here, just if you have any further questions or you're wondering where to go next, I would highly recommend you visit the website, which is pretty prescriptive. You can register to download the technical requirements document, which really gives you that in-depth detail as to what the program assesses and how you can comply. And of course, you can contact us, reach out. I'm always happy to step through the program with you on what level is best for you and how we go from there. So thanks, Nicole.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. It's really exciting to see that this program is live and it's up and happening. I might invite Katherine to come back and join us. We're now up to question time and we have quite a few questions, so it will be great to be able to go through those with you both. First one, really, so we'll try and make this quick so that we can answer as many as we can. Katherine, could you please define RPV? It was a bit bit quick in the presentation and so
it was another acronym that I get confused about. Sorry about that, everyone. It's a responsible product value that is set out by the number of criteria that are achieved through the responsible products framework.
Very good. Thank you for that. Jerusha, how is modern slavery addressed when assessing a supplying company? How in depth can you look into the supply chain?
For the modern slavery requirements under SSA, it is a level 2 requirement, so level 2 and 3, I believe. So we're actually looking at what's legislative and what's legislated in Australia, but also a bit above. So the current legislation is that if your company's revenue is over 100 million, you have to look at the modern slavery risks in your supply chain and provide a statement or a report basically on how you're addressing those risks. For level 2, we're actually asking any company who want to comply to level 2 to do that. And I know that might sound like a bit of an ask, but the reason for that is that we're really seeing this need for the modern slavery risks to be transparent throughout all supply chains. And so I think we're just going to get to a point where you're going to be asked for that no matter what your revenue is. And so we're just trying to get ahead of the game there.
How do you envisage the SSA changing as climate-related regulations, say the safeguard mechanism, proceed?
So this program has been signed off by the Green Building Council and it's valid for 2 years. So we are going to have to review this program in 24 months' time anyway, and that's probably going to be a good time to review because we do have decarbonisation or carbon reduction assessment in there, but I would say that it will probably have to get stronger in another 2 years once policy changes, for sure.
Katherine, how has the Green Star program been promoted to government at local, state and federal level, and what is the level of interest or uptake?
So we have an advocacy team and we have roundtables, regular roundtables with local governments here in Australia. The uptake is good, especially with the New South Wales government. We're seeing a real, I think it's like 60% of our buildings at the moment, and this figure, again, it's a very large number. It's something like 60% of the new buildings that are coming through the rating tool are from schools and from public schools. So it is a huge uptake, especially in New South Wales. And we're working to follow suit. There's a lot of advocacy that's going on with federal government as well, but obviously as some of the largest landholders and landlords in Australia. So we're working closely to ensure that the built form is sustainable, and also with this responsible products framework that I was presenting on, that some of the guidelines there could really be beneficial for them and their procurement teams, because it really starts to act as a useful filter to view what products should be. And then if you start using those as requirements for tenders, then it leads up into a really neat Green Star solution. On top of that, we've had a lot of issues previously with Green Star equivalency, which we're trying to deal with, but it just it's that old, imitation is the best form of flattery, but we actually just need it to be. There is no equivalency. It does need to be Green Star. And that has come from that is now being pushed through all levels of government as well. So we're seeing greater uptake with government buildings for the tools and being put into tenders.
That's fantastic news. Very conscious of time, but there's a couple of questions that I just want to wrap together as our last question for Jerusha. This has started in Australia. Does SSA only relate to manufactured steel in Australia? What happens when steel comes in from overseas? How do you make sure that's sustainable? Can it relate to overseas manufacturers that import into Australia?
Yes, the short answer is yes, it can. We're an open scheme. The requirements for the steel supply is the same, whether it's imported or from Australia. So, and we recognise that working with imported steel suppliers might be a bit more difficult to get them to meet some of the requirements, but we have to start somewhere, and let's do it together.
Thank you. And look, I'm sorry, there are another 4 questions I haven't even got to, but I'm very conscious of the value of people's time. And so I do need to call it there. But thank you so much to our audience for all your really great questions, and we will get back to those that haven't been answered. Thank you to Katherine and to Jerusha for speaking and for the interrogation at the end. It's always such a valuable part of the session, and we really appreciate your efforts. We are looking forward to seeing you next time, and we all hope you have a great day.